Hello friends, in today's video we will see how to grow tomatillos. Tomatillos are a zesty and tangy twist on tomatoes, and it's mostly used in Asian and Mexican cooking. And here are some fun facts. We will be planting our tomatillo plant in a whiskey barrel container. And that's one of my favorite medium for growing any large plant, including tomatillos. So this is a bony plant that you can buy at any garden store. So we will be using our usual steps to remove the plant from the peat pot by just pushing it out just like that. And we will be removing the soil around the roots. Remember, it's always an important step to free up those roots, to stimulate those roots so that they can better adapt to the medium they are growing in. And the soil that we're using for our container is a potting mix. And if you have seen my earlier videos, you will know that potting mixes are better than potting soils. And that's pretty much as far as planting goes. Now, tomatillo plants can get very huge. They can actually grow up to 6 feet or even taller. And the plant grows tall as well as wide. So we do need to support it with a cage. Now I'm using this tomato cage that you get at most garden stores. Remember to buy the one that has 4 prongs, not 3 prongs. The 3 prongs is the cheaper version, but it's not as sturdy as the 4 prong version. So that's how the cage looks like. And to further support this cage, we will be using 2 rebars. These are 6-foot rebars that you can get in the building materials section of any garden store. And what we do is we use these rebars to secure this cage. So you could use anything to secure it. You could tie the rebar to the cage using ties or mason line or pretty much any sturdy medium that you can use to tie this rebar to the cage. And once that is done, you need to water it deeply. Remember, planting any kind of plant requires you to water it very deep the time it is planted. Do not wait for a long time before watering your plants. The plants are experiencing a lot of stress, so this is really the time they need water to just kind of settle down into the new environment. Remember, it's a big change for the plant. They're coming from a very small container into this really big container with new soil, so they do need time to adjust to the new environment. So it's been about 1 week since we planted our tomatillo plant, and as you can see, it's growing pretty well. It's branched out into a lot more branches, and it's even producing some flowers. Although most of these flowers would not be setting fruit because it's just too early for the tomatillo plant to start producing fruit. But as you can see, the stems are pretty sturdy, the leaves are nice and green. We do not have any kind of mineral deficiency. And all in all, this plant looks really nice. So another 3 weeks later, the plant is growing really well and vigorously. It's produced a lot more flowers now. The stems continue to grow well, and the plant is becoming taller and bushier. That's quite a lot of growth in about a month. Another week later, I just wanted to show you how many flowers this tomatillo plant is producing. Now here's the thing, tomatillo plants produce small fruits but the number of fruits they produce is just alarming. They produce a lot of small sized fruit. So what they lose in size, they make up for by producing just a large number of tomatillos. There you can see that's one of our first appearances of a fruit. And what happens is that the tomatillo starts growing inside that shell and then keeps growing and growing till it actually rips the shell off and starts showing out as a fruit. So a lot of flowers are falling out, which is okay, but the tomatillos that have set fruit looks something like this. And remember, the fruits that are being set are still growing inside the shell of the tomatillo. And we have like a lot of flowers, hundreds of thousands of flowers here. Small flowers, yellow colored flowers. They attract a lot of bees, and the bees do most of the pollination. Well, if they don't, you can do some pollination with your hands as well. Now the way you add fertilizer to tomatillo plants is very similar to what you would do for tomatoes. When the plants are small, you would need to add a high nitrogen fertilizer, which makes sure the plants get to a healthy start. And then once the plant starts flowering, you need to add a low nitrogen, high phosphorus fertilizer that will encourage blooms. So here are some examples of fertilizers that you can add during the initial stage as well as the later stages of flowering. Here you can see some fruits forming, but we did see a lot of flowers. So how do you ensure all the flowers set fruit? So let's see this in the next section of our video, hand pollinating tomatillos. So in about 60 days after planting, your tomatillos should be formed and ready for harvest. Some of them could be outside the protective covering, but some of them might be still hiding inside them. So this is how it looks like. You just take the tomatillo, peel off the protective covering, and some of these might be sticky, so that's pretty normal. Don't get surprised that they're sticky or there's something sticking on it. It's just the way tomatillos are. That's how it looks like. So just keep harvesting wherever you feel there is a fruit that's formed. And let's keep doing that. Let's at least get a few tomatillos out. I'm just trying to make sure that we get the developed ones and not the ones that have still not formed. And as I mentioned earlier, the tomatillo plant produces small fruit, but it makes up for the size by sheer numbers. There are hundreds of small tomatillos on this plant. And as you can see here, that's how they look like. Not too big. Now this is the regular tomatillo that I'm showing you. the usual tomatillo plant that's grown. Now if you go to stores, you'll find these really huge tomatillos, and that actually comes from what is called a giant tomatillo. I do have giant tomatillos growing, and I'll probably cover that in a separate video. But this tomatillo that you're seeing is the traditional or the more commonly used tomatillo, which has small fruits but a lot of fruits. So as you can see, there are a lot of tomatillos to harvest, but in the interest of time and to show you the harvest in this video, I'm going to be harvesting just a few, and then we'll show you what we should do with it next. So that pretty much completes our harvest. Let's just get one or two more out. There we go, let's get that one. And this is a small sample of the harvest, and you can harvest like hundreds of these. So let's wash these tomatillos that we harvested, and washing removes all the sticky coating that you might have been surprised about. So it removes all the sticky coating as well as any husk that remains. So drain out the water. That's a really big tomatillo. I've not seen any of the other tomatillos that are that big. So let me just cut this open and show you how it looks like. Almost looks like a tomato. Remember, it's a sour and tangy version of the tomato. So this is how it looks like. Hardly any seeds inside, and it looks pretty good. And this one was one of the biggest tomatillos. The others are pretty small and standard sized. But remember, this is still the standard sized tomatillo, not the giant one. So I hope you liked this video, and I would like to hear from you if you have tried growing tomatillos in your garden. They are a nice sour and tangy version of tomatoes. So if you don't like sweet tomatoes and you like the sour or the tangy ones, you should definitely give a tomatillo a shot. I'll see you again soon. Happy gardening.